The Tennessee Titans interviewed my top offensive coordinator candidate, Kliff Kingsbury, on Monday, and they cannot let him out of the building without a contract. I'll tell you why on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, on today's show, I'm going to talk about why the Tennessee Titans cannot let Kliff Kingsbury leave the building without a contract, or they risk getting used like they did early in the head coach process. Also, I'll tell you why Robert Saleh influences what the Titans do in the NFL draft. We'll go over a couple of mock drafts, and I'll tell you what I think makes sense and what doesn't make any sense. Also, I got a little Rollins rant for you guys. We got to have a conversation about Mike Vrabel. Before we dive into all of it, do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. The Tennessee Titans head coaching staff is going to come together, or the coaching staff in general is going to come together pretty quickly. After that, we got to talk about roster decisions. We got to talk about free agency like we're doing today. We got to talk about the draft, and you got to get signed up for the Locked On Titans Everydayer Club. Make sure that you go to lockedontitans.supercast.com. You're going to get ad-free versions of the podcast. You're going to get added to a Locked On Titans group chat. You're going to get access to the Locked On Titans merch store. Again, make sure that you sign up there. Only $5 a month. It's about the cost of a cup of coffee, and the show is free all year round. But with that being said, again, the Tennessee Titans cannot let Kliff Kingsbury leave the building on Monday. And I know that a lot of you guys are going to be listening to this on Tuesday morning, probably on your way to work, at the gym, whatsoever. And hopefully, by that time, the Titans have hired Kliff Kingsbury as their offensive coordinator. As I have said throughout the process, after Mike McDaniel came off the board, and he is officially signed with the Los Angeles Chargers now, but after Mike McDaniel came off the board, Kliff Kingsbury became my number one option. He was my number two all along, but I mean, option number one is gone. We're going to move you up. You have now become one of my most important employees. Like, they need Kliff Kingsbury. He is the best fit for Cam Ward. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't like Brian Daboll. I like Brian Daboll. Some of you guys have a hard time understanding. I call it the pancake waffle meme. If I say, I love pancakes, some of you guys hear, oh, so you hate waffles? And I just don't understand it. I like Brian Daboll. I am going to be thrilled if the Tennessee Titans hire Brian Daboll as their offensive coordinator. But Kliff Kingsbury is my number one option, again, because he is a better fit for Cam Ward because of the scheme. Kliff Kingsbury, air raid. Cam Ward, college, air raid. Brian Daboll, most of his success in his career has come with a running quarterback, whether it be Jalen Hurts at Alabama, whether it be Daniel Jones, whether it be Josh Allen, whether it be Jackson Dart. A lot of the best offenses that Brian Daboll has put on the table have been very good in the run game, and it's because he utilizes the quarterback in the run game so well. Cam Ward is not doing that stuff. Cam Ward is not running QB power and QB counter and QB sweep. Like, that's not who Cam Ward is. Yeah, he could probably run a quick read option and short yardage like we've seen Ryan Tannehill do, but Cam Ward is not going to be somebody who runs quarterback run game stuff. So Kliff Kingsbury, who has had experience with running quarterbacks, but also has had great experience with traditional quarterbacks, would be a great fit for the Titans. And again, what I'm concerned with is that you're going to get played by Brian Daboll. I believe that the Titans' number one candidate is Brian Daboll. I like Kliff Kingsbury better, but I think that the Titans want Brian Daboll more than they want Kliff Kingsbury. And I understand why. Robert Saleh actually has a relationship with Brian Daboll from the time that they were both coaching the New York teams together. There's so many pictures out there of them dapping it up and hugging. They clearly have a decent relationship together where there is really no connection between Kliff Kingsbury and Robert Saleh. So I would understand that, and again, I would be thrilled. But Brian Daboll is still up for 2 head coaching positions that are currently open. The Buffalo Bills, which right now, he is the betting favorite to be the Buffalo Bills' next head coach. I'm not, I guess, as convinced of that. I kind of think that the Bills might be looking at one of the coaches that was in the playoffs this weekend, whether it's a Davis Webb or a Clint Kubiak or something of that nature. But ESPN's Adam Schefter went on a show on Monday and said, I think all the coaching hires will be completed by Wednesday. All of the spots will be filled. Now, was Adam Schefter just doing an agent's bidding and trying to force a team's hand? And, there's all these different motives in the media and everything like that. But if that's the case, if Schefter is right and all of the coaching staffs or all the head coaching positions in the NFL will be filled by Wednesday, that would make it less likely that Clint Kubiak goes to the Buffalo Bills, and that would make it more likely that Brian Daboll was hired. So what if the Titans let Kliff Kingsbury out of the building and he goes to be the offensive coordinator of the Ravens, and then Brian Daboll takes the head coaching job of the Buffalo Bills? Then what are you left with? Then what are you looking at? Then you lost out on Art Smith, Bobby Slowick, Kliff Kingsbury, Brian Daboll. Now your best option, and the only other guy that would truly be a top option for you, is Adam Stenavich from the Green Bay Packers, who I like out of the inexperienced play callers, out of the guys who have never called plays before. I like Stenavich the most. But outside of that, you have Thad Lewis, who is the quarterback coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if you're looking for a CEO style offensive head coach, yes, offensive coordinator, but truly an offensive head coach. If that's what you're looking for, you're going to hire 38-year-old Thad Lewis, who's never called plays and is just a quarterback coach. That's the opposite of what Robert Saleh should be looking for. And again, I like Stenavich from Green Bay. I would be happy with Adam Stenavich, but that's not a CEO level offensive head coach who's been a head coach before and called plays before. And that makes me nervous because that's not what I want for Cam Ward. So can you afford to lose out on Kliff and Daboll by waiting on Daboll and potentially irritating Kliff? It's not just about where they get hired and where they go. Like, if they have Kliff Kingsbury in the building and they don't offer him a contract and they make it obvious, which it would be if they didn't give him a contract, if they make it obvious that, yeah, we're waiting for Brian Daboll, and if we don't get him, we'll hire you. That might not go very well. Again, can you risk losing out on both of them? Because to me, Daboll and Kingsbury, whether you like Daboll more or whether you like Kingsbury more, both of them are clearly leagues ahead of Stenavich or Thad Lewis or whoever the mystery Rooney Rule candidate is that the Tennessee Titans interviewed for their offensive coordinator position. And let me say this, I said it yesterday just to be sure, but I want to confirm here. The Tennessee Titans have satisfied the Rooney Rule for offensive coordinator. You have to have 2 interviews, either virtual or in person, for your offensive coordinator position, and you have to have at least 1 for your quarterback coach position. And the Titans have had Thad Lewis in the building on Monday morning. And then they, again, according to Paul Karski, they did a mystery, unknown Rooney Rule interview with another offensive coordinator candidate that we don't know about yet. Now, that'll come to the light of day eventually, but the point is, It's not like the Titans are against the rules to hire Kliff Kingsbury right now, and they need to get on it. And I've seen some people, the Titans need to be patient about that. No, they don't. The Titans need to go get one of the best candidates on the market before they are left with less than best candidates on the market. They need to operate quickly here. Do not be waiting on Brian Daboll for a couple more days just for him to get the head coaching job in Buffalo, and you let Kliff Kingsbury go to the Baltimore Ravens. And then you're stuck with Stenovich or Thad Lewis or whoever the mystery man is or Matt Nagy. Like, just can't do that. You can't take that risk. So again, by the time this episode comes out, by the time you're hearing this, there's a good chance that we might have news on something like this. But for the time being, as I'm recording, the Titans don't have an offensive coordinator. And I'll tell you what, they let Kliff Kingsbury walk out of the door when they could absolutely hire him and offer him a contract to get it done. It's going to be frustrating if they don't end up with Daboll or Kingsbury. There's just no way around it because they got him in the building, and he wouldn't come interview in the building in this weather if there wasn't serious interest there. And Robert Saleh's press conference is on Thursday, and I would imagine they want to have this figured out by then. But with that being said, talking about Robert Saleh, I think he will have a big impact on who the Titans draft. Let's go over some mocks. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that's the part that hasn't always been so simple. And that's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with the fans. I pulled up the Game Time app, picked an upcoming NBA game, and the tickets locked in within minutes. You get all-in prices up front, a panoramic view from your seat. You got zone deals, great last-minute ticket options. I love Game Time. I buy all my tickets on Game Time. NBA, WNBA, MLB, NFL, concert, comedy, anything you need, they're going to have it on Game Time, and you know that you're going to get the best deal possible. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the last call for football on FanDuel, folks. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This Super Bowl 60 and FanDuel, this is Super Bowl 60. After all, what a crazy time that we've gotten to the 60th Super Bowl. But FanDuel is going to make sure that you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing your favorites, riding the underdog, I'm going to be backing the favorite in this one. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, just bet $5. And you're going to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Again, we talked about why the Titans should not let Kliff Kingsbury out of the building without a contract on Monday. But now I want to start, eventually we got to move away from coaching stuff and we got to start looking at the roster, how the Titans can add players. And it was a big day for mock drafts on Monday as we got past the conference championships. I'm going to go over 3 different mock drafts and talk about what I think makes sense for Robert Saleh and what doesn't make sense for Robert Saleh. Before we get into it, thanks again for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Make sure that you guys go join the Everydayer Club. You're going to get ad-free version of the show. You're going to get in the Locked On Titans group chat on Discord where we're talking about free agency, draft. You ask me any question you want anytime. I'm going to answer it. It's so much fun. So many people in there. I mean, we have 79 people who have already signed up for the Locked On Titans Everydayer Club. So make sure that you don't miss out. Go to lockedontitans.superchat.com and make sure that you join us there. But with that being said, tons of mock drafts came out on Monday, and a lot of these mock drafts have the Tennessee Titans taking David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech. And I got to tell you, based on what I know about Robert Saleh's defensive scheme, I do not think that David Bailey is a fit. Pro Football Focus, Dalton Wasserman had one. He had Mendoza going to Vegas, Ruben Bain going to the Jets, which is what I would expect at this time. Arvell Reese going to Arizona, who is my number one player in the draft, Arvell Reese. And then the Titans take David Bailey. Now, let me say this. David Bailey is my edge 3. If you're in my comments saying that Arvell Reese is a linebacker, you do not know ball. Sorry. Hate to tell you that. Hate to be the one to break the bad news to you. Arvell Reese, at minimum, is going to be a hybrid player at the NFL level who is primarily an edge rusher. Arvell Reese is going to rush the passer in the NFL, like Abdul Carter or like Micah Parsons or like Hassan Reddick, for example. All of those guys were off-ball linebackers in college. Are they off-ball linebackers now? No, they aren't. They're pass rushers. Okay, so if you think I'm telling you that the Titans are going to draft a linebacker, I'm sorry, you just don't understand what's happening here. Arvell Reese is going to spend most of his time at edge. Yeah, maybe you could be creative with him and move him around and have him play linebacker on early downs and rush the passer on passing downs and put him on the edge and second and long, and you could be creative with him, and I think that Robert Saleh would be creative with him. But Arvell Reese is going to be an edge rusher primarily, okay? So that's my number one player, and I think that Robert Saleh is ideally suited to get the best out of Arvell Reese and turn him into an absolute freak. But, again, my point here is I'm not going to be mad if the Titans get David Bailey, but I do not think that David Bailey fits Robert Saleh's scheme. And let me say this. Robert Saleh runs 4-man fronts. Think about traditional defensive ends. David Bailey is 250 pounds, sopping wet. Now, he's going to go to the combine super heavy because weight is the big concern about David Bailey. Is he big enough to be a true defensive end? I say no. He is more of an outside linebacker, a wide rusher, a designated pass rusher. David Bailey reminds me of like Yannick Ngakoue, Arden Key. These guys cannot stop the run. They cannot set the edge. And David Bailey improved in run defense in his final year at Texas Tech. He got better. But prior to that, he was basically exclusively a third down player. And why? Because he ain't got enough junk in the trunk. He's light. His lower body is thin. He's got skinny legs, skinny hips, a skinny butt. I'm sorry, but when you're Robert Saleh and you don't run 5-man fronts and you don't want to put a lot of extra bodies on the line of scrimmage and you want to keep 4-man fronts with wide alignment, you need defensive ends with power. And look who San Francisco drafted last year in the draft. They drafted Michael Williams out of Georgia, who was not the most refined pass rusher, but was big, prototype size, physical against the run. Now, he got injured in his rookie year, but that doesn't change what I'm saying right now, is that Robert Saleh said, if we're going to take a defensive end for my system, it needs to be more of a traditional type defensive end who can stop the run because I put a lot of pressure on my defensive line to stop the run. So, Mel Kiper from ESPN last week had the Titans taking David Bailey, and Pro Football Focus had the Titans taking David Bailey. And look, if Bain and Reese are both off the board and the Titans take David Bailey, I understand. But if Bain or Reese is on the board, there's no way that they're taking Bailey over one of those guys, especially Ruben Bain, who is a prototypical big-body defensive end. Now, he doesn't have super long arms, but I don't care about that. A T-Rex doesn't have long arms. It's still the most dangerous and scariest dinosaur out there, even with its little arms. And a guy like Brandon Graham, a guy like Jared Verse, like, there's no reason that Ruben Bain can't be like these guys. Elvis Dumervil didn't have super long arms. What about, Colts edge rusher? I'm going to lose my mind. Their best one. I can't let the show stop on that. But anyway, I think that Bain is by far the best Dwight Freeney. Dwight Freeney, perfect. You know what I mean? Like, Bain is that big, physical, disruptive, powerful type edge rusher that would be perfect in the four-man fronts of Robert Saleh. That makes sense. But again, I don't think that David Bailey does. I don't think that he's a scheme fit. And now, I did get good pushback, and this is why I like to talk to you guys online. Valid pushback was, when Robert Saleh was with the Jets, they drafted Will McDonald. Will McDonald, not a big physical edge rusher. He's very similar to David Bailey's measurements. He was about 245 pounds, not great against the run, not overly physical at setting the edge, and they took Will McDonald. And you're right, but I wouldn't say that Robert Saleh would do that again. Will McDonald had a good second year in the NFL where he had 10.5 sacks. But last year, he had 8 sacks. 4 of them came in one game. So he had 4 sacks in 16 games. And he was out of edge rushers that played at least 200 snaps last year in the NFL. He was the worst run defender in the entire NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. So I don't think that Robert Saleh would make the same mistake twice and draft He's not a good enough pass rusher. Like, he's as good of a pass rusher as Harold Landry was with the Titans. But Landry could drop back in coverage, was physical against the run, always knew his assignment. If Robert Saleh could go back, I don't think that he would draft Will McDonald again. So I don't think he's going to make that same mistake with Bailey. Now, moving to some other mock drafts, another one that makes no sense at all. Daniel Jeremiah. I think Daniel Jeremiah is great. He does great work for the NFL Network. He is one of the best draft guys in the entire world, maybe the best media draft analyst in the world. He knows what he's talking about. This was his mock draft. Mendoza to the Raiders. Reese to the Jets. Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle, to the Cardinals. And with Ruben Bain, Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, Jeremiah Love, Jordan Tyson, if I already said that, my bad, all on the board. He had the Titans taking CC Mwaga, Francis Mwaga, the offensive lineman out of Miami. What are we doing? The Tennessee Titans will not, with a bullet, bookmark, write me down, take a screenshot, chisel it in stone. I do not care. The Titans will not be drafting an offensive lineman with the number 4 pick. What are we even talking about? You're going to draft a backup offensive tackle or a right guard with the number 4 pick when you have a crying need at 3 premium positions in wide receiver, edge rusher, and cornerback? What are we talking about? I would take Caleb Downs or Jeremiah Love. You guys know I am not as high on Carnell Tate as a lot of other people. I'd take Carnell Tate a million times over before I took the number 2 offensive lineman who's maybe a guard at the next level. What the heck are we talking about, Daniel Jeremiah? That was despicable. That's one of the laziest things I have ever seen from DJ. And I know that some of you are just like, oh, they need an offensive line. They have Latham, who's a first-round pick. They have Skoronski, who's a first-round pick. Dan Moore is in year 2 of a $20 million contract. Like, they're not taking O-line in round 1. Are you out of your ever-loving mind? It's just insane. And the reality is that Titans fans, some of you, just won't accept is some of the reason that the offensive line struggled last year, the majority of it, is because the coaching was terrible early in the year, and in the back half of the year when they actually committed to running the football better, the offensive line all of a sudden was better in pass protection. And out of the 55 sacks, probably half of them were Cam Ward's fault. And you don't want to acknowledge that because you don't want to hear anything bad about Cam. But the truth is, a lot of those sacks, especially early in the year, were Cam's fault. He didn't get rid of the football quick enough. He ran out of a clean pocket. He stepped out of bounds and turned it into a sack when he could have just thrown the ball away. Sacks aren't just an offensive line stat. They're a quarterback and an offense stat too. So nobody being open because the coaches are bozos and they don't have wide receivers who can beat man coverage, a rookie quarterback who didn't move quick enough and get the ball out of his hands. Those things are just as responsible for the offensive line performance as the O-line. The Titans are not taking offensive line despicable F minus from Daniel Jeremiah. Now, CBS, Blake Brockemeyer got this thing right. Vegas took Mendoza. Jets take Arvell Reese. Arizona takes Francis Muwaga. And the Titans take Ruben Bain. And God willing, that's exactly how it'll play out. Because, boy, Ruben Bain would be the perfect fit for Robert Saleh. Now, with that being said, we talked about offensive coordinator. We talked about some of these mock drafts and how I don't think that David Bailey is a clean fit for Robert Saleh's scheme. But now we got to do what a lot of Titans fans simply don't want to do, and we got to have the Mike Vrabel conversation.
Hey, it's Matt Derry from the Locked On Lions podcast. The people I love depend on me. If I'm gone, the financial responsibilities don't disappear. I didn't want my family figuring things out during the hardest moment of their lives. That's why I knew only one place to go. I chose life insurance through my friends at Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. I love the folks at Ethos. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get the free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Application times and rates may vary.
Also want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to stay locked into every moment than Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where it always feels good to be right. With football season coming down to its final stretch, now is the perfect time to close it out strong. Prize Picks makes watching the game even more exciting by letting you build simple lineups based around player stats. No more drafting, no more waiting, just football action all the way through the playoffs on Prize Picks. It's super easy to get started. All you do is pick 2 to 6 players and you choose more or less on their stat projections. So passing yards, rushing yards, catches, touchdowns, more or less. It's really that simple. And they have a great new feature called the early payout feature, which lets you cash out early if a player gets off to a hot start. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Again, we talked about Kliff Kingsbury getting his interview, the Titans being Rooney Rule compliant, and why the Titans should not let Kliff Kingsbury leave the building without a contract offer. Also, we talked about how Robert Saleh's defensive scheme could influence who they take in the NFL draft. Now, I want to have the conversation, the ugly conversation that Titans fans really don't want to have, but it's something that we need to have about Mike Vrabel as his New England Patriots advance to the Super Bowl. Before we dive in, do want to thank you again, though, for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Make sure you join the Locked On Titans Everydayer Club. Go to LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayer or go to LockedOnTitans.supercast.com. Sign up. You're going to get ad-free versions of the show added to a Locked On Titans group chat with a bunch of Locked On Titans fans and me, all chopping it up all day long, talking about all of this information as it happens live, so you don't have to wait to hear my reaction on the show. You can get it from me directly in the group chat. Again, we're almost up to 80. I want to get up to 100 here soon. But with that being said, Mike Vrabel goes to the Super Bowl. And here is where I come down on it, guys. The people who get in my comments and say, you got to move on, it's not that big a deal. Or the people, the other side of it, where people are, I hope Mike Vrabel wins. I don't understand that. I don't understand either of those statements, if I'm honest with you. Number one, how could you root for the Titans to look like idiots? Because they already look like idiots. That's already set in stone. But if Mike Vrabel takes the 4-13 Patriots to be Super Bowl champions in his first year, that is one of the most all-time embarrassing things that could ever happen to the Tennessee Titans organization. And you want that to happen? Like, I'm sorry. If my best friend, this is how I kind of see it. If my best friend was married and his wife cheated on him, which Mike Vrabel going to New England week 6, it's not like this everywhere. Appreciate what you got. You think that Mike Vrabel didn't sit in that owner's box with Robert Kraft and plot out this whole thing? I'm going to go to Amy. I'm going to make a power play and say, give me roster control. They're not going to do it, and they're going to fire me. And then I'll be here waiting for you. Like, you think that didn't happen? You didn't think there was any tampering that happened? If your best friend got cheated on by his wife, would you root for his wife to find a better man than him? What are we saying here? What is it with the doomsday attitude of Titans fans where you want the Titans to look even dumber? You want the Titans to experience even more pain. And the other side of it, you people acting like it doesn't suck and it doesn't bother you at all that Mike Vrabel went and did this. You're a liar. You are a liar. And how you deal with your pain is to act like it doesn't bother you. I want Mike Vrabel to go win the Super Bowl. He deserves it. That's you wearing the happy mask over the tear face. Get out of here. No, I don't want Mike Vrabel to go win a Super Bowl with the Patriots to prove that the Titans are one of the dumbest franchises in NFL history. Did you want Steve McNair to win a Super Bowl with Baltimore? What are you talking about? That's absurd fan behavior, in my opinion. All right? Absurd behavior. And the other side of it is, we need to move on. That is not how life works. Sorry, buddy. That's not how it works. Once you make a critical mistake like that, you don't just get to say, well, no one's allowed to ever talk about that ever again because we need to move on. Yeah, in a perfect world, great. Every mistake that you ever make, no one will ever talk about it ever again. Sure, that would save you from the pain, wouldn't it? See, that's my opinion of this. Both of those attitudes that I've seen from Titans fans of, I want Mike Vrabel to win. I want him to make the Titans look stupid. And we need to move on. Why are we still talking about Vrabel? He's fired. It's time to move on. All that is I can't take the pain anymore. I can't take the pain anymore. I'm going to pretend that I want him to do well. I'm going to tell everybody to move on. We shouldn't talk about this. You're just experiencing pain and you're not man enough to admit it. That's my opinion. Except me, what I am about to say is accepting it. The Titans messed up. Now, does that mean that Mike Vrabel wasn't doing a bad job at the end? No, he was 6-18 in his last 24, couldn't get the offensive coordinator hire right, blah, 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 blah. But what did the Titans do? The Titans just went out and hired a different version of Mike Vrabel and Robert Saleh. The reality is, what the Titans should have done is wrote it out with Mike Vrabel and hired Ryan Cowden. That's what they should have done. Because even though Mike Vrabel struggled here, even though Mike Vrabel wasn't getting the offensive coordinator position right, he's still a top 5, maybe top 1 best coach in the entire NFL. And you simply don't let people like that leave. And I was wrong. A lot of you guys like to get in my comments and say, you wanted Mike Vrabel fired. You liked the Brian Callahan hire. So what? Yeah, I was wrong. You got me. What now? What now? What now? What do you want? You want me to hit the end button on the podcast and never come back? Sorry, I'm not quitting my job because I was wrong about firing Mike Vrabel. So you're throwing a temper tantrum for nothing in the comments, crying and boo-hooing over nothing. So what? Now what? What do you want? Oh, you just want to cry and act like you were right. But here's the reality. Nobody's going back 2 years to check your comment. So you could just be lying too. And pretending that you were right. We'll never know. So I just want to say this. And it's the last time that I'm going to talk about it. The Titans messed up. Now, they're trying to correct that mistake by hiring Robert Saleh, who is in a similar vein as Mike Vrabel, defensive guy, leader, big alpha male type dude. They're trying to correct it, but the reality is they messed up. It was wrong, and even though Vrabel was 6-18, and even though Vrabel couldn't get the offensive coordinator hire right, and even though Vrabel tried to pull a power play to get more roster control, that would have been a better path to go down than the path that they chose. I was wrong. Amy was wrong. It is what it is. But if you can't at least sit there and accept that the Titans got it wrong, I don't know what else to say. They were wrong. It was a mistake. And it sucks to watch the Patriots go to the Super Bowl. And with that being said, go Hawks. That's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.